Good old Frederick
At Doug's house.
at my house.
I
Yep.
see the
Yeah,
ukulele
just
in the
chilling.
back. Is it a
Yeah, man.
ukulele?
This is actually there's a guitar over here. This is like a small travel size Martin guitar that's kind of my go-to for just sitting around and sometimes saying it with words ain't enough. Sometimes you gotta sing it.
Now we're talking. Now we're
Yeah, man,
talking.
I love music. I've been playing music for a long time. Do you play guitar too? I see one there. That's your buddies.
I am not musically inclined. That is all my buddies. He's got a little travel one
Right
down
on.
there as well, actually, but not me. No.
Not you. Yeah. So how did you
My
get in? How did you get involved with Trade Hounds, man? How did you get started with that company?
Yeah, I'll give you guys a little backstory on myself. As I was in digital marketing the last 6 years, living the
Okay.
agency life. So, grind, just being on an account manager side of things, but the primary account that I worked on was Stanley Black and Decker. So I was
Okay.
working with DeWalt, Irwin, Lennox, and Craftsman, all sub brands under that Stanley Black and Decker family of brands. And through those conversations with DeWalt, actually, I was kind of looking just because Facebook and Instagram weren't performing as well as we wanted them to in terms of reaching the right audience. So
Okay.
reaching out via some non-traditional channels, and through the research tactics I was going through, good old Google, I found Trade Hounds, and I reached out to our CEO. And through those conversations of trying to get DeWalt signed on, Dave was like, he's Australian, he's like, hey mate, I'd love to have you come on as a sales rep. All right, I guess I'm gonna. I know we were
Cool.
talking down in Austin. It was kind of just like time for me to try something new, and I believed in the company. I believed in the mission. So I switched over to from digital marketing to the sales side of things with Trade Hounds.
How long ago was that?
I started in August.
Oh wow. So
It's fresh.
fresh.
Yep,
Super
very
fresh.
fresh, but I worked with DeWalt for a while, so I've been privy
Yeah, no
to
doubt.
it. But it was a nice change. It's been fun.
So so for those people who don't know, for anybody out there who doesn't know Trade Hounds as an app or as a place that you can go, can you let the audience know what is Trade Hounds and what you guys' mission?
Yeah, that's probably a good part. Even though we talked about me, that's easy. But Trade Hounds is a free app that you can download on the Apple App Store or Play Store. Actually, what it is, it's a community for professional tradespeople, and we do a
Okay.
great job of showcasing, professional tradespeople in a feed format. Able to kind of brag about yourself a little bit and ask for advice. That part about the community is the social aspect to it. Show
Yeah.
and asking for advice, especially for the younger apprentice level guys who are their
Okay.
first job and say, hey, what can I do better? And the more senior, master level users are going to go in and say, hey, like, there's no bashing, but you could do this a little bit better. So
Okay.
Trade On is just this professional community that's free to download on both cool apps. So if you haven't already, go check it out yourself. It's a cool app.
Yeah, I downloaded it when we first talked to you in Austin, and was just kind of comparing it, in my own mind to the apps that exist now, where you can go, whether it's Instagram, it's TikTok, it's Facebook, whatever the case may be. And I noticed a few differences in Trade Hounds than those other places. Can you talk about what sets that app apart from just because I know a lot of people might say, well, I'm already on Instagram. What do I got? I'm going to do another app. So what sets Trade Hounds apart?
Yeah. So when you're on, it does look like an Instagram. I might get in trouble for saying that with my CEO, but it does look like Instagram. It's professional content. So when you're on Instagram,
Yeah.
like, I'm looking videos. I'm looking at surfing videos. When you're looking at Instagram,
Yeah.
you might be looking at music videos. when you're on Trade Hounds, you're looking for that professional content, and you're looking for advice.
Yeah.
The other feature
Okay.
that I'm not sure if you our transparent pay feature, where you can go in and input your pay. I'm
Oh,
a
right.
journeyman electrician in Frederick, Maryland. Here's what I'm making in terms of wages, and that's going to give you a range of what other users in the area are making. So you can go in and talk to your boss and be like, hey, actually, I'm getting underpaid and get raises. So
Interesting.
that's kind of
How? What kind of feedback have you gotten on that element of the app? Has it been mostly positive feedback?
yeah, we've got tons of great real user stories where they've gone in
Okay.
and my boss, I got X amount of it's like it's a deal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is a big deal. Are you getting any responses on the business owner side of things where they're like, hey guys,
Knock it off.
knock it off?
I'd have to talk to my community manager, but I talked to I did talk to my buddy who's in management at a construction company, and I was like, "Hey man, what do you think of the app?" He's like, "Why?" Oh man, don't love that. Our whole thing is we want to bring power to the people, and that's where
Yeah.
the actual skilled tradespeople and not management. We understand like that might thing that a company wants to see, but it's the best for the worker. And
Right.
it was like, this is good from a coaching perspective too, from a man. I can go and say, hey, I'll pay you more for some quality workers, which also is useful. But his gut reaction wasn't the best.
Yeah, for sure.
What did you
That's
like?
hilarious.
You mentioned that there's, yeah. You mentioned that there's no bashing when people are talking about criticisms and learning and stuff. How do you guys mitigate that? I mean, how is that monitored to make sure? Is that just you just hope for a positive culture, or is there oversight? How's that work?
Yeah, and there hasn't been. We flagged a couple of users where you can get reported, but that has been few
Right
and
on.
far between. Self-managed within the community, which is fantastic.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because nothing makes us happier than seeing poor work and letting somebody know. Nothing makes an electrician with 20 years of experience happier than being like, oh, look, give me the keyboard right
Yeah,
now.
Doug knows that one of my biggest pet peeves is traditional message boards for this stuff because you go on,
Yeah.
you want to ask a question and the first answer is maybe somewhat helpful and then it's 25 people chiming in to just trash somebody.
That's not how I've been doing this 35 years. Let me tell you what I do.
I had one guy actually copy and paste a section out of the code book like it was some kind of mic drop, but it was like 6 cycles ago, and so it's 20-year-old information. And it's just like, they're painful.
Yeah.
We haven't seen too much of that. It's been like, hey, this
Good.
is really good, but here's where you can. And we're working
Cool.
right now on a blog. Again, I don't know if I can tell you guys. Working on a blog right now to kind of compile those resources and
Okay.
conversations. Like essentially, that's what we
genius.
do. We're that platform to have that chat and
I think it's
say,
great.
be like, hey, I know this is probably not right, and you can take that off like the public message, which is nice. But we've seen great engagement in the community there.
I think it's a great thing to attempt to facilitate because on the one hand, it teaches young people to be vulnerable enough in a space where they feel like maybe they're supposed to be vulnerable and put their work out there to get critique. And it also can be a space where we can work to teach those of us in leadership positions through critique and criticism too, that like, hey, maybe don't call him a
we can swear on this show. I didn't know that.
I mean, I'll probably bleep it out. It's fine. No, but it's a good thing, I think, on both ends to encourage that sort of back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess you've been in it? I know we talked in Austin
Sure.
a couple weeks ago.
So the things I saw that I liked, that I thought set it apart from your standard other social media platform apps, was that it's more engaging to specifically the trade, like the people in the trades. There are, when you're scrolling through, it's not just image after image, but the image gets broken up, or the image scroll gets broken up with questions. How far along are you in the process? What is it that you're looking for? And then right away, when you jump into the app, there are these, you guys do a lot of giveaways. So you're encouraging people to post content through, I saw the one today was the best tip. Give us your best tip and trick, best trick of the trade that you know, and get entered to win a $500 DeWalt prize pack. And I think that's the thing that you won't get. I mean, you might get that from a company through Instagram, or from, like a team like us that are doing a giveaway or something. But to have a platform where I think I think it's cool what you guys are doing, because it's important. It's important for us to all have a space where we can go grow and learn together and get rewarded for. It's scary. Look, even Josh and I talk about this all the time. It's like, I did a video yesterday. I was doing a simple ceiling fan replacement in an old house, and I time-lapsed the whole thing, and it looks really cool. But at the end of it, there's that, sometimes you'll have that slight gap around the upper edge where the canopy meets the ceiling, and it's not bad. It's how the fan by the manufacturer is installed based on the bracket. But I didn't like the way that looked, so I didn't I didn't post that video, just because of that minor indiscrepancy. And a lot of us are like that, where we're just like, nah, I'm not about to put that out there. I'm going to get eaten alive. But people go, there's a little gap up there at the toe, you know what I mean? And they're right. So we're always kind of, there was a person I was working for recently, a friend of ours that I was working for recently. And you almost want to have the conversation of like, hey, don't post anything, because you just never know you almost want to curate that yourself, because we know, like, we were having a conversation with a guy when we were in Nika, Kyle Figueroa, who's a friend and a colleague. And Kyle was talking about how, like, he was working with a couple tool companies down at Nika, and they wanted him to do a video. And we talked about this on a previous episode. They wanted him to do a video about a specific tool they were marketing. And he said he couldn't. And they were like, what do you mean you can't? We brought you down here effectively, like, what, and he said, look, it's not that easy. Like, I'm in a community of people who watch and respect my work. And if I don't believe in a tool, I can't go out here and say, check this tool out, because I'm going to get eaten alive. So it's cool that you guys are facilitating this space where, the idea is that even if your work's not quite there, the idea is to post it and say, well, what could I do? What would you do?
Yeah.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say, did you post it in Trade House? Because I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to start posting things to Trade House once.
See what the reaction is. Yeah, I mean,
perfect video.
I've been doing this 17 years, and I still hesitate to post things. I think it's tricky, because there's the intent to learn from somebody, but I feel like most people traditionally posting things, it's because they're not looking to learn something. It's because they're proud of what they did.
Right.
And so they're not usually that open to the learning.
Right.
They don't want the criticism.
Yeah, right.
So it's cool, because it's a completely different mentality of posting,
Yeah. I think you get that level of pride, wanting to learn. Like, I'm sure that you've been in this for 17 years, but like, there's still new things happening all the time. Where you're like, oh, I think that's just being
every day.
Right.
That's being human. That's every day. And I feel like if you keep getting yourself out there and try, moving in new directions, taking on projects you've never done before, it's all about learning. Right. It's all about learning. And I would even say, for somebody like Josh, who's 17 years in, it's almost more. I would feel more comfortable as a first year apprentice posting something because
You're the new guy.
you're the new guy, and if you didn't get it right, well then okay, what do you expect from me?
Yeah.
But if you've been doing it 17 years,
Yeah. Talking to my wife about her work, she reached a point, she was like 3 years in, and she's like, I was like, well, how's work going? She's like, well, it's kind of a bummer because I still feel like I still feel like I'm the new guy, but the new guy status has worn off on me, and so people don't look at me that way anymore.
right?
But yeah, there really is this like grace period.
Whew.
Yeah.
I feel like the new guy every day. I do every day. I mean, since we started the company, since we started being, it's just you too, huh? I'm sure. It's just like, but that's the space where you learn the most. That's the space where you grow the most when you're uncomfortable. If you're walking around only doing the thing you know how to do over and over, I don't know. You're probably
Have you
not growing
seen
too
the,
much.
I think it's a video from, I believe it's, and he talks about how we're very similar to lobsters.
Yeah.
Where they need to. I used to be a lobsterman, so this ties on to me as well.
I thought that mustache looked. I thought your mustache looked like it had some sort of lobster background. You being from Boston.
Yeah, salty man, he talks about need to shed their shell to grow, and that's when
Yeah.
it's like you comfort zone. That's the only way that you grow. So I think that's just a real. Yeah, watch the video, watch it. To be like,
Okay.
it's scary to go and try.
Yeah.
Going from marketing to sales or taking on a job that you haven't already, but like that's how you learn and get better, and like it's about changing mindset, really.
For sure. I mean, mindset is so important in everything you do. That's almost all we freaking talk about too. Is just mindset, because you can be good at what you do. You can be great at it. You can have been doing it for 17 years, but if you don't wake up in the morning and set your intentions, it can get away from you pretty quick.
It's humbling.
It is humbling. Life is so humbling all the time. So I think that that's mainly when I look at Trade Hounds. When I look at Trade Hounds, that's what I see. I see this place where you guys are fostering that community where the young learn from the people who've been doing it. And it sounds to me like it's a great opportunity, like I said, for people who've been doing it for a while, to have that mentoring. Not everybody who's been an electrician or a tradesperson for 20 years. I've met quite a few, and I know you have too, 20-year apprentices that they just never went through the process of like getting their licenses or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't know that a lot of them get the opportunities to reach across the table and be a mentor and say, and offer suggestions. Well, maybe try this. And creating a platform where they have that opportunity is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
100%. And I think it goes back to our guiding principle, like when we're going through product development or kind of plans for like the future of Trade Hounds. Principle is like, how do we help the hounds? Is essentially what we look for.
Okay.
Helping them, it's not worth it for our community.
What sort of things are you guys? Can you talk about that kind of stuff? What things are you're thinking about and working on? What things you see in the industry that with what you've been doing that you might help grow what you're doing?
Do a lot of outreach from Frankie. They do a great job of reaching out to our community to hear from them, because again, like we want to make sure that the future isn't answers questions and fills needs for the community. So stuff that we're working on, a map is something that the community has asked for. We're super excited about it, with different points of interest, and that's going to change on different trades and different uses. Where we're starting off is supply houses, and
okay,
for locals, because a lot of the newer users, we have 81% of our users are under the age of 41. They might not have these established relationships with the supply houses to be able to say, hey, here's a local supply house that's going to have that you need specific to your trade, and then be able to connect the two from there.
Okay, so it's kind of
So
a
that
living map of supply houses around the country.
exactly, it's still in the very, very early stages right now. But
Okay.
essentially, we're
Yeah.
having users self-report their favorite supply, get them connected, and then looking to kind of expand into 2023 to go nationwide. But from there, there's a bunch of different places that we can go in terms of points of interest. We talked intertrade marketplace, where it's like, oh, Doug has some wire cutters that he's looking to get rid of.
Not likely.
No way, man. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people, as they start to exit, the trades and go into retirement, like there's an opportunity for them to get back to it. I have all these tools that I may no longer need.
Yeah.
Just trying to keep it like within the community, basically.
Sure.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Do you guys find that? Okay. What trade do you find is most geared toward? Do you have one? Is it carpenters? Is it plumbers, electricians that utilize this more than any other?
Yeah, we actually have users on the community are our electricians, and that definitely has
Oh, okay.
our partnership with Klein. With
Okay.
them for so I think that's why we have the majority of electricians. But we also see carpenters, welders, HVAC technicians, just general contractors as well. But there's acceptable trades for when you join
Yeah.
the community. Commercial diver, you can do arborist. It gets
Well,
pretty
Commercial diver. Huh.
Interesting.
I wish I'd have heard about that whole. Wish I'd have heard about that whole commercial diver thing before I jumped into this electrical.
I don't think water and
Commercial diver.
electricity go too well.
Yeah, they're a bummer. It's a bummer. We do a lot of exterior electrical work, and it's always a bummer. And I feel like in that instance, anytime we have an instance where where water and electricity don't mix, GFIs trip, whatever the case may be, your initial feeling is to just say, I mean, it's outside electrical. It's just gonna trip.
The problem is that they mix too well. That water conducts electricity, right?
That is
They
the
want to be friends, but they're just like really bad influences.
That's
on
a
each
great
other.
point. Yeah, water and electricity get each other in a
they
lot
just
of
want
trouble.
they just want to party.
They do want to party. They want to kill all kinds of people. Water's like, come hang out over here, man. You can zap like 50 of these people at one time. Yeah. Water is effectively trade hounds for electricity. It helps spread that message around.
It's a good.
So what do you see? That's right, full circle. Where do you guys see this going? I mean, is this as you grow? I mean, because I'm completely unfamiliar with this world. So like, you build an app, and within this app, there's all of this interaction going on. What else is there when you're working for a company that's primarily housed inside an app? What else do you guys work on?
I think I'm still learning, to be honest. To go back to the analogy of a lobster, this is the app space. This is my first time in the startup space, so it changes day to day. It changes week to week. It changes, but the primary driver is really just the community. So it's like, what do you?
Yeah.
What's the best way that we can serve you? And like, off is we started off actually with marketplace. And then we realized, there's a bigger need for maps and points of interest. Supply houses aren't on like the big search networks. It's fine. They're not tech savvy, whatever it is. We can help out with that. It's becoming a pay to play arena. Coming from my digital marketing background, some of these big retailers are able to outbid. So when you're looking for supply houses, you're going to get, the big box stores that pop up, and it kind of like
Yeah.
boxes out the local guys.
Hmm.
So it just comes down to what our community is, and that's today, honestly.
Yeah. Sounds pretty punk rock. It does. It's like subversive. It's it's the and you said that your demo's like 41 and under, and that's interesting too because that's really our demographic as well when it comes to the podcast. It's like that 25 to 35 market is all over it as far as like being able to be tech savvy enough to get into an app, want to pick another one up. Yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
It's awesome that you guys are doing this too, because I think for a long time, like this just entire technology has been overlooked, maybe in trades. Like there hasn't been like this in the past. So like, I love what you guys are doing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
Well, we see it all the time because I feel like typically people get into the trades because they don't like that sort of stuff. They don't like people. I'm kidding. But, there is a level of like, you want to just be in your work and you just want to lose yourself in the project and what you love tools. You love taking things apart and putting them back together. And a lot of times, I think, especially when you talk to the older guys, it's just the technology just kind of gums up the work. So they just are like my dad is an old trade head, and he works on cars, and this guy could take old cars apart and build one beautiful new restored car, but he wants to throw his phone in the water every time. He doesn't know how to text. It's just there's this cultural divide from the old heads to the new of like, I don't know about you. I guess aside from the last company you worked for before we started this company, every other company you worked for probably did everything paper wise, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Same.
Yeah. And I think what happens is people tend to think, all right, well, guys in the trades are a little old school and they don't like technology, but then that kind of polarizes things, right? So it's like we're on this mission to make culture where it's like make trade work appealing to people who maybe have looked at it a certain way and thought, it's either too crude for me, or there's no place for technology in it. It's like there needs to be a meshing of old and new school. It's like keep some of the traditions, but also upgrade it. And
keep the hazing. You know what I mean? Keep the hazing in there. But some maybe a new app every once.
You guys working on a new hazing app?
Haze Hounds.
What do you guys have to do for your hazing? I'm really curious now.
Oh, okay.
That's funny. I mean, for me, there wasn't any hazing, but what's interesting is what we did for our apprentice, Daniel, was perceived as hazing, when in reality, it's hard work, So hazing for most young people when they come into the trades is, you're like, it's just the hard work. You're like, I had one guy ask me, we were just doing what we normally do. And one weekend he goes, is this what we do every day? And it's like, yeah, this is the job. It's hard work. And so I think, before I got into electrical, I was working at Starbucks. And that's great. They take great care of their employees.
Yeah.
That's a big part of their company model. But I was in the air conditioning. I got free drinks. And
soft hands,
real soft. And it
it
was a big shift for me to go into swinging a hammer and all that. So there wasn't actually much hazing, but the guys are, some of them are rough around the edges, and they're not there to make friends, and most of them weren't there to train you either. A lot of those old school dudes, they just want to work and be done with it. They're annoyed that you want to learn this stuff. So when you can find a guy who wants to teach, you latch on to him. That's what's great about the trades hounds thing, is maybe you get someone who isn't in an environment where they want to teach you. This kind of brings that to them. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really important to have that that relationship. Yeah. Go ahead, JP.
I was just saying, are there any other resources out there for learning, I guess? not on the site, and grumpy old guy who doesn't want
Yeah.
to help out. Like,
Sure, absolutely. I mean, look at what our friend Dustin Stelzer over at Electrician U. Like, look at what Dustin's building over there, and if you don't follow him or Utah electrician Chad German, who's now going to be teaching with Dustin, and Mike Holt and everything that Mike Holt's team has done to provide those of us in the electrical trade with text material to prepare for exams, to understand theory better. Mike's even got entire textbooks on estimating and bidding, and if you're running your own company. So there have been I would say in the last, starting with Mike Holt largely. I mean, after we had a conversation with him on this show, and it was really apparent through his story that when he was coming up in the trades, which was 40 years ago, maybe. What's he, 70 now? Yeah, maybe even before then. But there were just no resources. There weren't even textbooks that were super accessible for you to like really learn it. You really had to learn from somebody. And so nowadays that's very different. Like you don't have to take the traditional route. You don't have to go to a trade school necessarily, depending on what the rules are in your area.
Yeah.
So I would say if you're looking for a good mentor and you're okay with that virtual back and forth instead of the real hard person to person, check out Electrician U, because Dustin has a lot of videos that are really, really not just, he gets into theory and everything, but he has those real hands-on videos too, where it's like he's explaining conduit bending and when you're troubleshooting what to look for. And those are the things that a good teacher, if you were in the field with a master or a journeyman that had that mentality that they wanted to teach you, those are the things you'd be picking up.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, I would encourage people to, you don't want them to jump around a bunch, but ideally, if you can find a company, if you're not at one that does support you in that way, you should probably be considering making a jump, because we have a friend who runs an HVAC company, and they're very forward thinking. They're focusing on training and schooling. And so it's like there's more and more of those companies out there. And I think by finding them and supporting them, it's like supporting small business. It's like they're more likely to thrive and become the norm. And, it's just like any market. It's like if you don't support the stuff that doesn't work.
That's right.
And
I think in a lot of cases, young people don't know that, like, if you're working especially if you came up and you feel like I'm going to jump in the trade, and maybe you have that mentality that like I'm going to get hazed, and then you go into it, and then that happens, you might not realize that there's an alternative. Just like being in an abusive relationship where you don't know, like sometimes you're just like, well, I didn't realize that was even happening until you go to another place and you're like, oh, they're nice. Or not just that, but they're like supportive and encouraging, and they just instead of telling me everything I did wrong right there, they helped me see the things I did wrong, but they offered suggestions for doing it better, right?
Yeah. Well, it's fantastic to hear that there are other resources out there. I'm just not, an electrician. I'm a sales guy, so
Sure.
I couldn't figure this out if you gave me a million years. So major props
Sure
to
you
you and the listeners. But I think Trade Hounds does do a good job of like, where it's like, hey, I'm looking for technical help here. Do you mind like taking a look? And it's been cool to have like that casual side through like a textbook, or basically providing someone with like a friendly master who's going to help them out virtually.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that's, we talk about social media a lot, Josh and I, and there's pros and cons, but the biggest takeaway and honestly, the thing that has surprised us more than anything with social media is the positive feedback. Like there is whether it's Trade Hounds or you're looking at some other platform there, I've been blown away with how you can go on there and find people who want you to succeed too. And it's not just this competitive hoarding of your technique and ideas. It's like that information's out there, and I love the idea of sharing a trick that you learned or some way to make a project easier,
Yeah.
Faith in humanity restored.
You guys are doing it. You're starting with trade hounds, restoring faith in humanity.
We're trying. We're trying.
Now, if we could just get trade hounds and JP Canfield to run for Congress.
I don't know if we can do that, man. I got too much shit on me.
I don't know, man. With that lobster story, you're a shoe-in, dude. You just go city to city with the lobster story.
That job literally stank. I'm not kidding.
That's right. Did it really? How long did you catch lobsters?
I did it for a summer. I was at college and just needed a job, and I was like, I'm gonna give it a go. And I was a stearnsman, and 400 traps a day. The captain would, pull the buoy, bring the traps on, take the lobsters out, put them in their cubby, and then my job was to remove the bait bag with all of the stinking, rotting fish, put in new stinking, rotting fish, drums that we left sitting in the sun all day. I'm putting my entire body into them, put them in the bait bag, stack them 15, and then he'd push off the first one. They kind of shoot out, which was crazy, and then I'd go and ban the lobsters, and we'd do it all over again.
Sounds like fun.
See, and in my industry, we call that hazing. But really, it's just the job.
You're right, though, Josh. Like, that is becoming a thing. Like, it's okay. So, and that's something to talk about. Like, it is more and more so. The newer generation does kind of like when we brought on our apprentice, and we've talked about this before on the show. One of the first things we had him do when we did a service upgrade was drive an 8-foot galvanized ground rod into the earth, and we do that. We've got tools that do that, but we also do it with a mini sledgehammer, and it's just good practice, keeps you fit. But we do it all the time, and it's great to have those tools. It's great to use those tools when you have them and rely on them. But sometimes, what if you're in a situation where you don't have that tool? You got to know you can get it done. And when we first had him do it, we joked with him like, "You probably think this is hazing," and he's like, "It's not." It's not hazing. And it's because when you're doing that for the first time, you might not realize that the people who are asking you to do it have actually done it 1,000 times. Yeah. And you've got that mini sledge in your hand, and you're like, this is bullshit. Like, why don't they do this? And it's like, no, you don't understand. I've done this so many times. Like, we're not doing this to hurt you. So, and you've got to know it's not just a mental break, or it's not just a physical break, it's a mental break. You got to know, okay, when push comes to shove, I can get that done.
Yeah. But that's a good distinction to make. It's like, it's not hazing, it's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And those can get mixed up sometimes.
That's a T-shirt right there.
Yeah.
It's funny. Yeah. My buddy works for Amtrak, and when he first joined at Amtrak, they had him manually doing the railroads. And they have a machine that does it. But same type of thing. It was like, well, if this machine isn't working, you got to get these done. Like, you got to know how to do this. And he's complaining.
Got to know how.
That was killing me, man. So,
yeah.
But it was good to know. Like, you need to know that stuff.
It's also great for appreciation and gratitude, because like you do it by hand all this time, and then you get the tool and you're like, oh my god, this tool's amazing. It's so great. If you start with the tool, you're like, whatever, it's just part of the job. So you almost don't have that appreciation for a hot shower unless you've taken a cold mountain shower. It's like,
It's true.
The amount of things we take for granted technologically wise, in our industry, it's a big deal.
So appreciate the most then?
It's a good question.
Well, heavy hidden questions.
That's a good one.
I never had to use an old school hand auger drill, but I have to say, given the fact that I've had a corded or electric drill all the time, I'm still grateful for it, because we work in an old town and you see the holes that were hand drilled. And some 18-year-old guy was getting his rite of passage that day, and that was his whole job, was to go around the house hand drilling the house. Mm-hmm. So that's probably my biggest one is cordless drills.
Yeah, cordless drills. I just picked up the.
There's an opportunity for you to try that hand drill, and then you'd appreciate it even more.
I've got some of my wife. Her grandfather had a handful of them, and I've got them sitting in my shop. I've thought about it.
We should make a video of how hard life would be.
I do it now.
How hard life would be if we didn't have these new tools. A little bit of appreciation.
I'm gonna dress up like they would have dressed back then.
There you go. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, drills are probably it. I just picked up the. That's right. That's a great idea. What are we
Yeah,
thankful
dude.
for? All right. That's why I see
I was a
Mr. Marketing
guy
over. That's why
too,
we
guys.
talk to JP. That's right. That's
Exactly.
what it is.
You're coming to Lehman Brothers next.
That's. I mean, yeah, those drills are good. I just picked up the M18 hammer drill, the SDS Plus, and it's a masonry penetrating hammer drill, and it's cordless, battery powered. Man, change your life.
Yeah.
Change your life. A child could use it, but
Oh.
but shouldn't.
We just talked about it recently with our buddy, but the Makita drywall saw.
Drywall, so Makita drywall saw. That tool is a game changer. We cut so much drywall doing residential electrical work, and there's a lot of ways to do it, but Makita made this little tool.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
In fact, yeah, I don't even think about it but in the residential game specifically, any trades out there that have to cut holes in drywall, the Makita drywall cutting tool, incredible.
It's got a little adjustable blade that you can dial into the depth of just your drywall, so you're not worried about cutting wires behind the drywall or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a vacuum attachment to it, so while you're cutting drywall, it's sucking the dust out, so you're not shooting a plume of dust all over the client's house.
Yep.
It's professional, it's clean. Can't say enough good things about that tool.
Yep. So that's probably the one. That's the one that I have done it the hand way my whole career,
yeah.
and now I have a tool to make it easier.
Yeah.
So
But I do want to get back to like this concept of like, because I think it is important to stress with the people first getting into anything, not just the trade. You have to know, any young people out there listening, listen. When you first start something, you're gonna shovel the shit. It is what it is. Like and the people who are asking you to do that or telling you to do that, they did that too. They're not saying that to you for any reason other than that's the lowest skill level job. And and it has to get done. And so it's not personal. You see a lot of this, like, frustrated or like, this is bullshit. And people that don't make it, they start out in the trades and they don't make it more than 2 weeks because they're like, this is ridiculous. All I'm doing is, it's like, look, it gets better, but you have to start where you are. And just because you're being asked to do something like diving into old fish guts, it's just because the captain's not going to do that. He needs somebody who doesn't have any other skills yet.
yeah.
And then you can, well, and
Oh my god!
I'm not talking about, your,
JP being the exception.
I'm not talking about your marketing skills here. I'm talking about your ability to get on a ship and grab lobsters out of the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
somebody's got to dive in that bucket of fish guts, and it's not going to be the captain. And so
No.
I just want to say that because it's like I have a daughter who's 22, and I don't want to sound like a totally old man, but I will on
late.
purpose.
Yeah.
But she always talks about that. She's like, oh, these jobs need to pay people more, blah, blah. And look, that's all debatable. But like in the same breath, they don't want to get in there and pull out a bunch of fish guts. And it's like, what do you want me to do? Like, you want to get paid manager pay without any skills? You have to start where you are. And sometimes it's hard, but you'll get through that.
Yeah.
I think in my experience too, attitude. That's been the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And if you're sitting there after 2 weeks like, I hate this, I don't want to do this, like, then you're probably not gonna last. But if you're like, man, I appreciate the grind here, verbal about that, a lot of the times the people who are hazing you, that kind of works in the reverse. Like, all right, well, to learn, they're appreciating, and it works when you change your mindset. I think you guys talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
I agree.
I was talking with our apprentice Daniel last week, and I said, have you ever seen, The Karate Kid, either the original or the remake, right? There's this great lesson in there, the whole wax on, wax off thing. It's like here, this whole time he's being trained, and he doesn't realize that what he's being asked to do, which is just, the regular daily work, the chop wood, carry water, that it's going to translate to what he does later. And I said that there's a prime that happens a lot in the trades, like with us. I said, I'm going to start having you clean my truck out. And if you don't have the right attitude, it's going to seem like I'm just essentially getting you to do free work for me, busy work for me, but that's not the case. What you're going to learn, because it took me a long time. I worked for all these different companies, and you always clean the trucks out. And the first master that I worked for had me cleaning the truck out in his driveway for hours every day, and it drove me crazy. But then I started to get a little more hands-on. I knew what all the materials were. I knew where they were on the truck. And then later on, when I was running my own van, I already had the management skills and the mindset of cleaning the truck. And it's like, I didn't realize in that moment that he was essentially teaching me wax on, wax off.
He
And it's
Miyagi'd
like,
you.
Yeah.
You got Miyagi.
Totally, dude. And it's like, so like the menial, like that little, the lowest rung job that they ask you to do, it's important in more ways. It has to get done, which is the bare bones, but also it translates to where you are later in your career. You know, the captain, you know, if he's got to have you do the fish guts, it's like, it's because he knows how long it takes and how many people you need to do it. And it's like, so doing it, even as you move up the ladder, by starting there, you know everything that goes into it. And it's, there's a lot to it. It's cool.
Point too, of like, obviously there is an end game to it, but about that to be like, I'm having you do this so you can do this in the future to help change that mindset too, which I don't think always happens.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but if
I think you're right.
I'm doing this for you, this is why.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
It's funny how a little bit of communication can make all the difference, right? Instead of just saying, hey, you, get back there and clean my truck. Because that can feel like, well, damn, what did I do to this person?
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, I need you to clean this out, and here's why.
Yeah.
Because it's going to teach you this and this.
Yeah.
But you're right, JP. It is also mindset. It is like, I think that if you're gonna get yourself into a trade, know that it's not easy. Know that it's not. You're not going to start with the easy stuff. It's going to be labor heavy, and just know that the people who are asking you to do that did that too. They're there where they are because they once upon a time had soft hands too. Got to tighten those. Got to toughen them hands up.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think communication is also important, like you said. Do you know who Jocko is? Jocko Willink? He wrote a great book. He's a Navy SEAL, but he's got a podcast now, and he wrote a great book called Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership, yeah.
And it's basically about taking personal responsibility for stuff and whatnot. And he talks about in managerial roles, one of the most important things you can do, being honest and upfront with your guys, is that explain to them what's going on, even in the hard times and the bad times. He says, because if you don't give them the narrative, they'll make their own.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you're not explaining to your people why you're training them a certain way or why we're doing something, they're going to come up with their own theory in their head, which is that, you're using them, or, you're taking all the money and piling it up in your bedroom. And it's like,
That is what I
swan
do.
diving into it like
This is
Scrooge
what I do with my money.
Yes, thinking about Scrooge McDuck, exactly.
Yep. It's like, so it's so important to explain to people,
Yeah.
what's going on. So
It sounds like that's what you guys are doing over there at Trade Hounds, is just developing that platform to have those conversations.
transparency.
Yeah.
It sounds like you guys are doing it here.
We're working on it, man. It's
Trying.
trying, just learning as we go too. And we still just like everything, we're looking to, like Josh said, the Jocko Willinks and any other leader that we see out there. I'm a big fan of this guy named Jason Wilson, who he's a mentor and a martial arts instructor for inner city youth. And his whole take is that, like, it's all about the parents' role in the life. It's all about overcoming difficulty. He had this great video recently where it was this awesome video. He showed this flashback 3 years ago to where he's teaching his son how to throw strikes, how to punch, and he's got his like punching mitts up, and he's got like a GoPro, so you can see the son, and the son starts to get frustrated, and he can't get his footing right, and he starts to cry. And Jason Wilson's platform is a lot about crying as man and like being okay with your emotions. There's a book called Cry Like a Man. And this video is wonderful because his son starts to get frustrated, and he starts to cry, and Jason's like, why are you crying? And he tells him, I'm not getting it right. And he's like, son, that's why we practice. It's you can't get it right away. You gotta go through these times. You gotta get frustrated. And then it cuts to 3 years later, and now his son is a preteen, and that kid is lighting those mitts up with all these different combinations. So just 3 quick years after that frustrated moment where he felt like quitting, and this kid is a new changed person, and it's all because his dad was there for him to let him feel that, talk him through it, and say, now get back on these pads and throw another punch.
Yep.
Makes sense. Yeah. If it was easy,
Yeah, man. That's what we say. A little girl down the street would do it. We always. Josh had a guy who used to tell him what.
I was working on this big project, this really cool high-end project, and there was this like really quiet general carpenter cabinet guy there. And he never really said much, but one day I don't normally let frustrations get to me, but it was just getting to me, and I kind of threw my hands down. I was very frustrated, and he just looks at me and goes, well, if it was easy, the little girl down the street could do it. And I was like, huh. So now we always joke that the little girl down the street is like this like business
She's got her own
savvy
company.
like miser who's just like coming after Lehman Brothers.
Little girl down the street electric.
Yeah.
Look out for her.
She is just brutal.
Yeah, man.
Yep. So
Well, JP, man, we really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and talk about Trade Hounds. We think what you guys are doing over there is just phenomenal, awesome. Yeah. So keep it up. And what else? Is there anything else we can say to promote what you guys are doing?
No, I was just gonna say thank you so much for having us. I'm glad we got to connect down in Austin, and it sounds like we're all in.
yeah.
So yeah, go and download the app on the Google Store and the Apple Store. Free. Trade Hounds, you can message, tell me what you like, what you don't like. We're trying to grow as a community, so and appreciate it. So appreciate you guys, and thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks so much,
Awesome.
JP.
Thanks, man.
Have a great day, brother.
You too. Peace.